Dear colleagues, I thank the organizers for the invitation to participate in this forum. Over the next 15 minutes, we will talk with you about what basic principles can unite countries and peoples in the process of globalization of society. For many millennia, different ethnic groups, cultures, religions lived in isolation from each other, sometimes not even suspecting the existence of each other. With the development of communication and transport, various countries, peoples, and people all met, began to communicate with each other. Now, even children from around the world communicate intensively with each other on the internet. People of different religions, cultures, nations, and ethnic groups now live in the same city, in the same house, work in the same enterprise, create families. The whole world today has become technologically and informationally united. And now, when we all met, the question arose, how do we live all together now? Globalization is an inevitable evolutionary process. Mankind has now grown to a certain level at which we all need to learn how to live together as an integral one organism. This is a lesson that is sent to us at a certain stage by the Almighty. In China, the word crisis is denoted by two hieroglyphs, danger and opportunity. Now, we live in a very dangerous time. On the other hand, it provides us with the opportunity to move to a different level of development. If we do not develop, we inevitably run into a dead end. The modern systemic crisis is a dead end, which mankind has reached today. Why? Because humans have ceased to develop humanity in themselves. If we talk about global processes in the current systemic crisis, globalization can occur in two ways. One, you can try to unite humanity, leaving it at the level of relations and values at which it is today. Two, or you can unite society and manage it at a new evolutionary stage. Albert Einstein said that no problem can be solved at the level at which it arose. Therefore, we must talk today about how to move to a different level of building society. All relationships go through three standard stages: dependence, independence, and interdependence. When we were little, we wanted to become independent of our parents. When we became teenagers, we began to boast of our independence. But with gaining maturity, we already understand how important the link between generations and a mature approach to relationships in society is an awareness of our interdependence. These three stages of development of relationships exist everywhere, even in our relationship with God. In an allegorical parable about the prodigal son, Jesus said that once we turned away from God, who provided us with everything, and in the material world we begin to boast of our independence, but after some time we see that separation from God reduces us to the animal level, and we recognize the value of our relationship with the Almighty, and revive them already on a different, deeper understanding of their value. All states pass through these three steps in their relations. When colonies are disconnected from the metropoly, or when the former Soviet republics were disconnected, at first they are very proud of their independence. This is the level at which we are now. The current level of humanity is that we pride ourselves on our independence. The main holiday in all countries of the world is Independence Day. Russia celebrates its independence from the former Soviet republics. They celebrate their independence from it. Pakistan, India, the United States of America all celebrate their independence from other countries. And this is a teenage, immature, and very dangerous level, because being on it, we believe that we can be happy separately from everyone else. But we are not independent. We are all interdependent, and modern political history clearly shows this. For example, the French and Germans helped the Americans bomb Libya in order to pump out oil from there, not for gold, but for paper wrappers, which are called dollars, and obtained a huge influx of refugees as a result. They caused problems to others, they got problems themselves. So, At a new evolutionary stage, humanity must understand that we are all interconnected, like different parts of a single organism, and the liver cannot build its well-being to the detriment of well-being of other organs. This is the evolutionary stage that we all must rise to today. Speaking about systems and methods of managing society, it should be noted that there are two main control systems: external control systems and internal ones. External control systems are electronic chips and money, a slave-owning financial and credit system into which today all mankind is being driven in order to manipulate it through finance, terrorism, and wars. Internal control systems. This is when we are controlled by internal values and morality. When people focus on external values that are sold for money, they go under external management systems. When people are focused on internal values, they are governed by internal values: duty, consciousness, dignity, honor. Now we are at the turn of history when the old management models are no longer working. So the question arises, what will be the next model of society management? Capitalism has already discredited itself. It no longer even needs to be criticized further. It will soon be gone. Now, you need to think about what will be the next type of society building. Financial management from London and the United States is now moving to China, because global players understand that the management of society must begin to be built on different principles. Management on the basis of capitalism, where everyone seeks to live better than others or suppress others, leads to the destruction of the planet. Therefore, socialism is needed. What will be the socialism of the future? Will it be based on external or internal control systems? This is the main question now. The current Chinese scenario of globalization of society is based on external control systems, when humanity will be driven into an electronic concentration camp, where each person will be controlled through individual chips. It will be a totalitarian, non-spiritual society, where everything is controlled by artificial intelligence and social ratings, where people are consumption-oriented as under capitalism, but after the spread of this system to all of humanity, consumption standards will gradually decrease. The task of this project now is to enclose humanity in an electronic control system, showing the world its advantages on the example of individual countries of the world, where crime, corruption, terrorism will be reduced thanks to it. All people will be provided with a minimum living wage, and they will be controlled by strict economic methods, because they will continue to be oriented towards bodily pleasures. This version of socialism implies that everyone lives for himself and follows certain standards and rules of social behavior only in order to continue to gain access to material wealth. If someone starts to act somehow differently what is established by the electronic system, the norms of his consumption will be reduced. It will be gently or harshly punished. Globalization through the submission of all to the electronic system is based on the restriction of freedom, while God gave man freedom so that he can learn how to use it correctly. A person develops internally when he does the right thing voluntarily, and not under duress. The restriction of freedom does not develop people morally and suppresses the development of human qualities. It is useless to suppress humanity or fight it. We now hear from many doctors that antibiotics stop working. God sends us diseases when we do not lead a healthy lifestyle, and if we do not change our lifestyle for the better, but simply try to eliminate them with antibiotics, the viruses mutate and the diseases sent by God will reach us anyway. And in the same way, if we do not work to improve our human qualities, but try to artificially avoid the negative consequences of their lack, without transferring humanity to a positive, evolutionary channel, then it will be accepted anyway, one way or another, by others, already more sophisticated, and there may be even more terrible forms of social illness. If people do not lead a healthy socially lifestyle, they will be sent social diseases, and try to protect themselves from using a digital electronic control system, the same as trying to get rid of the disease with antibiotics and not to return to a healthy lifestyle. Globalization, according to the Western and Chinese variants, implies the destruction of all cultures, all peoples, and the unification of all on the purchasing principle, forming a uniform, homogeneous consumer society. Whereas the evolutionary globalization approach is the unification of various cultures and peoples with the preservation of their language and traditions, the traditional institution of the family on a platform of high common values for all human values. So, an important moment has come. Now mankind has come to a certain impasse, to a systemic, large-scale crisis, which can be overcome only in one way, to rise in moral and spiritual development to a new qualitatively different level of relations and values, and then new, breathtaking perspectives unknown to humanity and development horizons. If mankind does not solve this task, set before it by God Himself, to transfer to a fundamentally different moral standing of living, perhaps life on planet Earth will have to start all over again. Neither the modern Western system nor the control system that is being created in China today can solve the most important pressing problem, which is the destruction of the planet's resources and biosphere. Indeed, in order to control society through finances, it is necessary that people produce and buy more and more new products. For this, they are constantly reducing their quality, which will soon turn our planet into a garbage dump. This is the dialectical paradox of these two approaches. Orientations to internal values, the surrounding world improves, whereas orientation to external values destroys the world. This is a real, very big threat. The threat is already very serious. I remember one thought since childhood. How stupid are adults? So that our children do not curse us in the next 10 years, maybe even in the next 2 years, we need to change the course of human history for the better, starting to develop in another direction. Otherwise, we will simply not fulfill our most important functions. Another important point is that the current model of society management now keeps people in the grip of the financial and credit system through their continuous need for purchases, just to engage in some kind of meaningless activity. After all, if you start making things practical, eternal, then people's time will be freed up. But how will people use their free time? What will people do if they free up their time? They will do more with everything that they do in their free time now. And how do people now use their free time? To a greater extent, further degradation. Which bloggers are more popular right now? Who has millions of views? Those who carry something good or something bad? What comments are people leaving now? Positive ones or negative ones? As long as people are inclined to consume, they are dangerous from themselves. So we need to engage in some kind of meaningless activity, the production of quickly becoming outdated, inherently garbage goods that destroy the planet only to control people through the purchase of goods. And this is a very serious question. How do people use their free time? How can you use it? Automation and robotics are pushing to solve this issue right now, because robotization and automation of production every year will release more and more people from the work they currently have. We have only one way out, the evolution of values, because people feel satisfied only when they increase what they value. A human consumer is happy when he gains something all the time, so shopping for modern people is the main entertainment. But if you follow the Chinese version of globalization, socialism, in which a person remains at the consumer level while restricting consumption, this will give a rise to internal discomfort. If a person is focused on external values, but he is not allowed to acquire them more and more, this will bring a new collapse or explosion. A person can feel satisfied, happy, and feel the fullness of life without increasing consumption if he develops internally. We can hold back the passion for consumption only through a passion for self-development. In the context of large-scale globalization processes, instead of managing society through the consumer principle that has already led everyone to a standstill, it is necessary to start managing society through people's desire for self-development, through their awareness of their interdependence. This is the next step in the evolutionary development of society. In order to preserve life on this planet and for its development, it is time to adopt at the interstate level a Declaration of Interdependence, which will proclaim that we are all particles of a single whole, that we are all people and countries dependent on each other, as well as on the environment of our nature, and not a single corporation, not one state, not one person should build their well-being at the expense or to the detriment of the well-being of others. And this evolutionary step is inevitable. God sends us such tasks today because we have ripened before them, and if we do not solve them correctly, then there will be a collapse and humanity will begin its evolution from the very beginning. That is, for us, this is a matter of life and death. But since we are all reasonable people, our future will be good, because we will choose the evolutionary scenario, the progress of relations, the progress of the moral inner qualities of people. We'll talk more about this the day after tomorrow at the workshop, Management of Society at the Highest Priorities and Values. Thank you all, dear friends, for your attention. Have a nice day. See you again.